It was 3 days before New Year's Eve when my wife Lauren casually mentioned that she wouldn't be celebrating the holiday with me. She smiled while packing a suitcase and said, "I'm spending New Year's with friends. I'll be gone for about a week." The way she said it made it sound like my opinion didn't matter. I didn't argue because, over the previous year, arguing had solved nothing. Every concern I raised was dismissed as jealousy or insecurity. A few minutes after she left, my phone buzzed. "Don't wait up. We'll celebrate when I get back." I looked at the message for a long moment before replying with just 6 words. "I've made plans too." "Have fun." She reacted with a laughing emoji, clearly assuming I would spend the holiday sitting alone at home like I usually did whenever she changed our plans. What she didn't realize was that, for the first time in a very long time, I had stopped organizing my life around someone who no longer seemed interested in sharing it. That simple message marked the beginning of a week that would change everything between us. Lauren spent the next several days posting cheerful photos online. Fireworks over the beach, expensive dinners, crowded parties, and smiling group pictures filled her social media. Friends commented about how amazing her vacation looked. I never liked a single post or replied to any of her messages asking why I had become so quiet. Instead, I focused on my own life. I visited my parents, spent New Year's Eve with my sister and her family, caught up with old friends I hadn't seen in years, and finally started doing things I had postponed because I was always trying to save my marriage. The strange part was how peaceful everything felt. For the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for someone to come home. I wasn't wondering why another promise had been broken. I simply lived my own life. Somewhere during that week, I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired of feeling like an afterthought in my own marriage. Halfway through the week, I made one important phone call. It wasn't dramatic, and it wasn't done out of revenge. I met with an attorney to understand my options and to prepare for whatever decision I would eventually make. At the same time, Lauren's mother, Patricia, called to wish me a happy new year. During our conversation, she casually mentioned that she thought Lauren had canceled the trip because she hadn't heard from her in days. That surprised me because Lauren had told me she was spending every day with friends. I didn't accuse anyone of anything. I simply realized there were still pieces of the story I didn't understand. Instead of chasing answers, I chose patience. Whatever the truth was, it would eventually reveal itself. By the time Lauren returned, I wanted my decisions to be based on facts instead of emotions. I had spent too long reacting. It was finally time to start thinking clearly. A week later, Lauren unlocked the front door with the same confident smile she had worn when she left. She rolled her suitcase into the hallway and cheerfully called my name. "I'm home," she shouted. I stepped into the living room, but I wasn't alone. Sitting on the couch beside me was Patricia. The moment Lauren saw her mother waiting with me, her smile disappeared instantly. Her face turned pale as she stopped walking. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Patricia looked at her quietly before replying, "I think that's the question your husband should be asking you." The house became completely silent. Lauren looked from me to her mother, realizing that something had changed while she was away. For the first time since leaving, she understood that this wasn't going to be another argument she could brush aside with a quick apology or a simple explanation. Lauren slowly placed her suitcase down and looked at me with confusion mixed with fear. She expected anger, but she didn't expect calmness. That seemed to bother her more than if I had shouted. Patricia looked at her daughter and asked, "Why did you tell him you were spending the week with friends when you weren't even staying where you said you were?" Lauren's eyes widened because she realized her mother already knew something was wrong. She tried explaining that she didn't think it was a big deal and that she only wanted some space during the holidays. I listened quietly before saying, "Space is one thing, Lauren. Making someone feel like they don't deserve the truth is another." She became emotional and admitted that she had avoided telling me certain details because she knew I would ask questions. I replied, "The questions were never the problem. The fact that you felt you had to hide the answers was." For the first time, she saw how much damage her choices had caused. That night, the three of us had a conversation that Lauren had been avoiding for months. Patricia admitted that she had noticed her daughter's attitude changing long before the New Year's trip. She told Lauren that independence didn't mean forgetting the person who had stood beside her through difficult times. Lauren sat quietly, realizing that the people closest to her had noticed the distance she created. I also admitted that I had made mistakes. I had spent too much time trying to fix everything alone instead of demanding the honesty and respect I deserved. But I explained that a marriage cannot survive when one person keeps making decisions as if they are single while expecting the other person to remain committed. Lauren apologized, but I told her that an apology was only the beginning. Words could start a conversation, but only actions could rebuild trust. Over the next few weeks, Lauren and I had to make some difficult choices about our future. The New Year's trip wasn't the reason our marriage was in trouble. It was simply the moment when everything we had ignored finally came to the surface. We talked about the resentment we had both allowed to grow and the conversations we should have had earlier. Lauren understood that trust isn't something you can demand after it has been damaged. It has to be earned again slowly. I also realized that loving someone doesn't mean constantly sacrificing your own happiness to keep a relationship alive. Both people have to choose the relationship. Both people have to protect it. Whether we stayed together or eventually went our separate ways, we knew one thing for certain. The old version of our marriage could not continue. Looking back, Lauren's message, "Spending New Year's with friends," seemed like a simple text at the time. But my reply, "I've made plans too," became the moment I stopped waiting for someone else to decide my happiness. I didn't make plans to hurt her. I made plans because I finally remembered that my life mattered too. When Lauren walked through the door and saw Patricia sitting beside me, her smile vanished because she realized the balance in our relationship had changed. She was no longer facing the husband who would quietly accept everything. She was facing someone who had learned the value of honesty and self-respect. That experience taught me that sometimes the biggest changes don't come from dramatic confrontations. They come from quiet decisions made when someone finally chooses to stop ignoring their own worth. And sometimes, the moment someone realizes they might lose you is the moment they finally understand what they had.